morning. It's Thursday, the 16th of April. You're watching the live show from Travel Massive. This is a show that's hosted as a result of the COVID-19 crisis and how we can cope with it in the travel business. I'm Kevin O'Shaughnessy, the co-founder of CityHook here in Dublin. I'm joined from Portugal, from Dublin, from Los Angeles, and from Tokyo by our special guests today. And I'm really looking forward to the chat we're having. Today's theme, like we have a theme every week, today's theme is Restart. It's the role of startups and how they're coping in the COVID-19 crisis. Everybody at some stage in their entrepreneurial journey is a startup. There's always some great material to share when you hear from entrepreneurial talent like we're talking to today. So whether you're a project manager within a larger company, you're thinking about your own journey, I hope you'll get some inspiration from the folks that have joined us today. If you're watching a recording of this is about the time that we had hit about 2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. It's around the week that the United States took over as the worst place on the WHO map. It's a very sad story, especially on the East Coast in New York. But also it's around about this time that Airbnb, to cope with the crisis, raised $1 billion of equity and $1 billion of debt financing to see them through. We have a couple of other announcements, but I'll save those to the end. My guests today are Rama Poola from SkyHi, Wendy van Leeuwen from Secret City Stays, Karl Llewellyn from Sanctifly, and we'll end with Kei Shibata, one of our board members and an angel investor from Tokyo. I'm looking forward to having you all on. Rama, I'll start with you. It's dark where you are because it's early where you are. You're in LA at the moment, is that right?
I am. It's 6 a.m. out here. Um,
Well, thank you for making the sacrifice. It's easy to fill up on a little bit of caffeine to keep yourself going, but getting up at 5 a.m. just to join us for a 6 a.m. call is superhero territory. Can you give me 20 seconds on your company? Just give the standard elevator pitch, and I'll spin on from there.
sure. The company's called SkyHi. It's the first subscription service for commercial airlines. It's a membership model. Members pay $199 a month. They're able to fly up to 5 times per month on over 5,000 routes across North America and Europe. And we're really about fixed prices on those flights. All flights are $35, $75, or $120, depending on distance. Really wanted to streamline that, get people moving around much quicker.
So it's a different type of way. This has been something that's been talked about for quite a while. Can we have, an unlimited fares ticket with an airline? This is kind of where you guys are fitting in. There's a monthly subscription. People sign up, they stay with you, and then they're just paying a little residual for every flight that they're taking. So if they're going far, they'll pay a little bit more than if they're just going down the street. So
hmm
that's been the holy grail of a lot of analysts' expectations for the airline industry at least a year ago. How was it going last year for you guys? Can you give us a sense of how of traction, growth, that kind of basic numbers? Nothing too detailed.
Totally. We were doing great. We're growing month over month. We kind of hitting our stride on how we're acquiring customers, and we were seeing that really early this year. Really leaning on the right partnerships to get the word out. Our just Instagram, Facebook ads are just clicking better. Just things were going right. We had just improved retention, just all the things that we wanted to see. Obviously, that's all upended right now. But the signs were promising. I think the times are right in where a product like ours really fits more of the use case of general travelers, and that's what we were seeing.
A lot of your business, you were saying, at least up until now, was leisure based. So folks that would hit, say, New York to Florida regularly or something, or hit, a home going flight to visit friends and family. Was that a pretty typical customer type for you?
Yeah, and we did. The majority of our members are using it for leisure. Some sort of business in there, because a lot of people do both right now. Um, and we have some more business type corporate customers on, but that has not been the majority. So yeah, it was sort of promising in that we have a product that really fits the market that airlines have in a way neglected.
No, it's one of those where, for an older generation, where were you when you heard that John F. Kennedy died? It's one of those, uniting moments for the world. What were you doing, or what was your first signal that COVID was affecting your business?
We started noticing it in just what the airlines were doing and reduction of their routes, the number of flights that were going. Early March, earlier in the year, obviously we heard about it. We just didn't think it wasn't affecting anything, at least in the U.S. domestic market, till early March. That was the first signal. Then we started seeing customers sort of ask questions. We had more, desire for people to change their flights and things like that. So we'd had to handle some customer service that way. And then by mid-March, it was clear, like there's probably not going to be many more bookings through the month,
It was an interesting story from our perspective because we saw it was over there. It looked like SARS again. It looked like MERS again. It was, look, it's contained. It's over there. We're okay. And then it hit Italy, and all of a sudden we had a giant, oh my God moment in Europe where, okay, this can spread and this can do real damage.
Yeah.
And then because Italy is such a tourist destination, that was when some of the stats really started to weigh in. And some of the early speakers we had on this show were all about Italy, but wow, hasn't it just gone from bad to worse since? We see, and there was a Wall Street Journal article shared just today about how exactly the numbers, and when they said maybe it's a little bit more, more weighty, we all knew that there was a reduction in capacity, as in how many seats were in the air for airlines. At the moment, at least, there's a lot of cargo stuff happening, which is great, but there is still quite a drop in passenger. You've got kind of two variables, if I could think about what drives your business. You've got the subscription stuff, which is the optimistic, this is the future, we might need it, we might not. So there's that kind of variable of, if I don't need it this month, so what? I still have my subscription going, that's okay. And then there's I have this permission to book with you. Do you, how do I say this? What's happened to the subscription side? Has that been affected? Have people just shrunk back on it preemptively, or have people had tough conversations with you about what to do with their subscription? What's happened just with that element of it? And I'll get back to the flights in a second.
Yeah, totally. We have some subscribers that are still actually booking flights. Flights are traveling, not as many, but we do have some subscribers that are just continuing. They're booking fewer flights, but they're using it. We gave, early in March, we sent out a note to all our subscribers saying that this is happening. And we would love to keep you on as customers. And if so, you can put your membership on hold and you will essentially get in return flight credits to use for future bookings. And we have had, a great amount of our subscribers have sort of done that, put it on hold, because they do envision themselves traveling as this starts to change in the upcoming months. So that's really what we wanted to do, is keep people on. It's easier to retain customers that way as opposed to try to get them back on.
From a general perspective, though, like one of the magical parts of your product, if I remember correctly, was that you can book last minute. Assuming that the seat is there, you'll get it for the token payment, and that's magical, right? But have people's habits changed now? Are they thinking 4 or 5 months in advance, or are you still kind of strict about the window on the advance booking?
Well, the app will only let you book, essentially 6 hours out in the future till 30 days out. So, in reality, like, people might be traveling in 4 months, they just can't see it on our platform. We won't allow them to do that. So in that case, people are just putting that on hold, and hopefully they'll jump back on in a few months.
Look, we all have investors. How's your relationship with yours at the moment? Were there a couple of tough conversations, or did they at least have the experience to know, well, look, there've been crises in the past. How did they weather this? How was that conversation?
They've all been really supportive. In reality, this is completely out of our control. The item we sell just happens to not, you just can't sell it. So, it's out of our control. So we've really, shifted the conversation to, that's the reality. That's been our revenue stream. But we've been working on additional revenue streams, and we've sort of just pivoted to continuing to work on partnerships that will expand the product. We've worked on technical debt we've needed to address. We've worked on sort of new integrations that actually reduced our costs month over month. So really focused on what are those types of things we can do. And our team honestly has wanted to build some cool product features that just haven't been top priority. And now they get to do that. So they've been happy working on some of that stuff and feeling productive. So the conversations with our investors have been have been okay. They've been optimistic.
Is there pressure for you guys to start thinking about new products or new features just to keep you guys afloat in the meantime? I'm trying to think, how would I pivot SkyHi into something like, that's a tough question almost, but how do you get extra revenue in at a time like this? How's that kind of conversation going?
It's been those conversations have going well, both internally with our team as well as with investors, because we've always wanted to do that, right? We know that airline booking is one aspect of this, but there's so many other things that people will want to do, whether they're at a new destination or even in their hometown. So we wanted to expand the product to add more benefits to a membership, right? So what are you doing locally is what we're thinking about. Restaurants will open at some point, so how do we support them and support our customers to discovering new things and having an easy way to maybe getting priority reservations at restaurants, at some point hotels and spas and things will hopefully open up. So do those fit into our model? So really thinking about that, how do we expand this membership to be a bit more holistic, add additional revenue streams, add cool partnerships, which also help expand our marketing reach, right? So it's just kind of put that more on the forefront. And we're also thinking about, the corporate side of this, right? That's going to probably pick up at some point, likely before leisure really picks up.
Okay.
So what does that look like?
Because when you think about the type of user that benefits most from a product like yours, it is a frequent flyer. Now, and there's frequent flyers for VFR, there's frequent flyer for leisure, and there's frequent flyer for corporate, and that's going to be a different type of approach. But because you didn't have it, that's kind of a whole new channel waiting for you guys to tap into when you want to. So that's at least a little comfort for when frequent business travel picks up again. You'll be ready for them. That's kind of cool. You've been able to keep the team together. You were saying that's got to have been a lot of relief on one level, but a lot of hard work, I'm sure, on another. I mean, how long do you see this? How long, at least in your own projections, do you see this lasting, and how long before people are in the air again?
Uh, I feel like it changes day to day when I think about this. I think I feel like there's going to be a window where everybody wants to travel all of a sudden because, maybe the restrictions have lifted a little bit. So there might be a little bit of a rush later this year, but I think it's all going to kind of go back down, right? At least on the leisure side, just my own leisure behaviors as I've been thinking about through the year. Has changed, right? Where I want to go and why I want to go to the places I do. And normally I fly a couple times a month just to go explore places, right? So that's changed in my thinking, and I know that's happening across the board. So I think I hope that there is additional travel later in the year. It won't be anything close to what we've seen before, and I think we're prepared for that. We've adjusted our expectations around that.
Another feel-good factor for me is that you're local, Mark, as in the market just outside your door in LA there is the US. And if there's an international travel ban, you've still got 3,000 miles of flying you can do domestically. There's a lot to see. So I'd be quite optimistic about your domestic product because there's a ton of air product that you guys can keep selling. One of the things that I want to loop back on, though, was from a previous live show. We had We Travel talking a little bit about what their sales team are doing at the moment. And apparently it's just been dynamite for the sales team to be able to get through to their potential partners. Are you finding it easier to do business at this time with airlines to join your product?
Totally. We have found it easier to get the conversations going.
Wow.
With airlines, with, other, again, additional revenue streams, sort of different types of partnerships, because people they know everything's going to be different. I don't know if we all know what it's going to look like, what people are going to really want, but it's going to be different than it was before. So I think people are willing to embrace that. It doesn't mean that it's faster to actually get the contracts out and signed, because also there's uncertainty. So, locking into a contract, at this point, it's tricky. But just being in the rooms is that gives us hope.
Okay.
on both sides.
All right. I wanted to just before I get to my last question with you, if there's any questions coming through, the place to do it is on Zoom. You'll find the details of that over on travelmassive.com. You can watch the stream live, of course, on YouTube and on Facebook. But right now, the only place to ask questions are through the Zoom platform here. Rama, my last question to you, really, and it's a little bit banal. What's the mood like in LA? You know, I can tell you all about Dublin. It's one of these rare blue sky days here. It's kind of crazy gorgeous. The mood is people are kind of had enough of this now. We're ready to get going again. What's it like in LA?
Yeah, LA is also, in a sense, people are kind of itching to get back, but we're also, it does feel like we're really in this together and making real change in the world by just staying at home. And you can feel that, I live in a small neighborhood where I don't really talk to anybody. Because in LA, you're in cars a lot, you're not on the streets as much, and you don't get to know your neighborhood as much. But I've gotten to know my neighborhood a bit better by just seeing people on the streets and saying hi and talking to people. So you start to feel more of a community here. We do have a governor and a mayor that are, very clear and direct about what's going on and providing, hope in those ways. So those, daily live streams have been great for all of us as LA residents to know what's happening. So I think in general, we're tired of it, right? I've been home for a month straight. But it is all okay. We're safe and healthy. And at the end of the day, if we can keep that up, then we get to live and we get to do amazing things in the future.
We get to get through the next day stronger. Rama, just while you're there and while people are listening to the other guests, where can they find out more about you?
Yeah. So the website for SkyHi is flyskyhi.com, FLYSKYHI.com. So you can find more about the product, download the app, and you can see everything that goes on there. Join our newsletter, you'll get all the updates. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty open. I chat with anybody. So reach out to me there, and we can continue the conversation.
Well, look, I'll be on to you, I know, after this call to learn all about your tricks reaching out to airlines at a time like this. So listen, for the time being, Rama, hang on to the end. We've a little bit more to cover with you. Well, thanks for joining us on today's live show. Wendy van Leeuwen from Secret City Places, thank you for joining us. I wanted to talk a little bit about your product and how it's affecting you, because you have a different story. You've got this wonderful product that seems to have been able to survive the first impact of the crisis. Tell me about the product.
Yes. So Secret City Trails are self-guided city discovery games for locals and travelers to fall in love with their cities. And during the experiences, you follow in the footsteps of a local creator, you solve their riddles from one hidden spot to the next, and you unlock their tips and stories. So local experiences, and now in 130 experiences in 50 cities across Europe.
50 cities. At the end of the day, you guys are a marketplace for distributing these experiences.
Yeah.
Which is great, but you're more of a publishing platform, if I could say that, because at the end of your experience, it's not delivered by a guide, it's not delivered by a resource, it's consumed digitally. Is that a fair summary? Okay.
Yeah.
So on one level, it's not like you had to have a tough conversation with the accountant and put 1,000 tour guides out of business. You were able to weather the first impact for this pretty safely, were you?
Yeah, absolutely. When we look at our numbers, the first half of March, we still saw a lot of people play outside, and it was a bit more locals playing in their own cities rather than people traveling to cities, but we still saw a lot of people play outside. And we've also still seen a lot of people create games, because anyone can be a creator with us. It's writers, teachers, anyone that wants to show a neighborhood in their city. And a lot of people signed up to do that right now because they're home, or some people have, not everyone has more time. I don't feel I have more time, but a lot of people do feel that they have a bit of time and still want to go outside. And we have people creating games right now in various cities across Europe.
Where I walk my dog every day, or nearly every day, it's one of the busiest parks in Dublin at this stage. It used to be
That's
empty.
crazy.
People
Yeah,
love spending time outside. But there's a little bit of silver lining in what you said there. Locals enjoyed your product in their
yeah,
home city.
yeah.
In fairness, I see very little of Dublin, but I'd love to
Hmm.
see more of it. That gives me some sense that, if there's an international travel restriction, people will still be able to consume your product and still benefit from it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we started these games for locals to fall in love with their own city again. So for us, it feels like we've gone a bit like full circle. Actually, now we see that so many people will rediscover their own cities, travel more in their own countries. So these experiences are already 50% locals and 50% travelers. In London, for example, our games are in English pretty much everywhere. We're translating more to local languages now to have more locals play. But in London, it's already 80% locals who play our games. And we're excited actually to help people rediscover their own cities. As like Rama was saying, now he walks around in his own neighborhood. You're saying you don't know your city that well. This is so often the case, and this is a beautiful opportunity for us to discover all the incredible things that are in our own neighborhood and that are in our own city and then in our own country. So yeah.
When you think about your type of product, you've got two scale dimensions. You've got the inbound market, which
Yep.
is, you're in Lisbon. You've got the inbound market into Lisbon that want to discover Lisbon, and they could be from everywhere. So you have to
Yep.
localize it into Chinese, into German, and whatever. So there's that element of it as well. But there's also the scaling of multiple cities around Europe, or
Mm-hmm.
wherever around the world. So do we do Buenos Aires this year, or do we do New York this year? So you get those kind of questions all the time. How do you see the growth from a content perspective during this time? Is it a time to be recruiting more and more content creators to get more cities growing, kind of in the background, or is that just too messy for you guys?
For us, our supply set has been growing organically very much. So we always have people signing up, but our focus has been so much right now on having more experiences in the cities where we already have them.
Hmm.
So that, especially when we're targeting locals now, people play once in a couple of weeks, they can come back, they can discover a new neighborhood, or they can do a game that's more around like the best rooftops for cocktails, or once places start to open again. Also, again, as I was saying, we already along all our routes take people to independent local businesses to have a drink there or get a nice deal there, and we want to do that even more because these businesses really need people to come back. So we're actually excited to add more experiences within existing cities rather than add a lot of new ones at the moment, and this is mostly so that we can target locals and they can keep playing in their own city.
So, when there are those green shoots and people are a little bit more confident about taking a step, and I think there'll be a radius story, like today's radius will be the city, and
Totally.
next town over, and maybe the next, go across the border to from US to Canada, whatever. So you get that kind of baby steps.
Yeah.
So once they've discovered your product, once that there is some sort of a retention there. On that, you had some great stats about how you're marketing in the meantime and what your retention rate was. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I
Yeah.
tell you what, I got excited about that.
Yes, so did we. So what we decided to do a month ago, as soon as we realized we couldn't sell our outdoor city games anymore, we created online games. So they're essentially brain teasers similar to our riddles you solve in the city, and you still unlock really fun stories about cities all over Europe, history, culture, art, all of that. And we have a lot of hundreds of people play them every week, which is great. And it's a great way for us to collect email addresses that we can then reach out as soon as people can play again in their cities. And we have fans of these online riddle games. The retention rate is around 65% week on week at the moment. And normally our retention rate is around 20. So we're super excited to see this huge jump with these games. And we're trying to figure out how can
Wow.
we replicate it. Is it just because these games are free, or is it people are finally looking for something else? Like, hopefully it's not because they're free, because that would not really be a great business strategy going forward.
Well, I hope you discover a Zoom effect in this time of crisis. That there is some sort of explosion there. That there is something that we can that you
Yeah.
can grow from. I love the story though that you guys have something that's both inbound and local. That I could like for me, I could use it to discover a little bit of Dublin. Um, you're not really cost heavy when it comes to how you operate. Like your business, we don't have to go into the detail of it, but you were saying that you had the tough conversation with the investor, and all of a sudden the runway story came up. How
Mm.
long do you think this is going to last? How long? are you looking at the moment in terms of your own projections? And then what are you going to do in the meantime?
Yeah, all great questions. So, our
You don't have
first
to answer
investment.
all of them now, or
No,
you
no,
can
no,
answer them.
no. I will talk about some of the points. So, our pre-seed investor, first investor, called us second week of March, going like, "So we just wanted to have a chat with you girls. Actually, that runway that you were planning to spend that in the next 9 months, yeah, that needs to now last 18 months." And we're like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do with this?" We have a small team. We're 5 full-time, 2 part-time, and we always have amazing interns helping us. But it's good that we have a small team. Our creators do get a creation fee, and then they're paid the percentage per game sold. So there's not a high cost there. And of course, we've cut our marketing costs. We're not trying to get people to play games outside, so that's helping us save. And we're very much focusing on product development, so adding new features, making it more shareable, more sticky, and gamifying the whole customer journey rather than only the actual experience, which we're actually quite excited about.
I just had a thought. Like, there's a lot of folks that come on this show and say we're working on product. And we're chatting to Kei about this. We'll hear it at the end, I think, as well. But there's a lot of product coming.
Yeah.
I do not want to be working in Skift or in FocusWire or on TechCrunch when the avalanche of press releases start coming out. You know, we can all travel again. Here are our new features. It's going to be like the dawn of a new internet at this stage. It's going to be huge. So everybody's got this new stuff to show, and like even if it's just getting rid of the bugs or the technical debt or something, there's going to be a whole load of new product coming. Do you want to give us a preview of some of the stuff? Well, not a preview, but give me a sense of what's coming for you guys.
I mean, for us, it's actually incremental changes. I can't say it's like one huge change. So our games are played through a web app. So we want it to be that people play better together as a team. So we have better sharing features at the start of the game. So every team member can be more engaged with it rather than having one team captain. There's more like a bit of more like social engagement. So you get a team photo at the start. We're integrating that. We're adding some new features along the way of like different answer options and question options. So it's also just a bit of format. We're adding some sound to it that we didn't have before. So it's really incremental changes that we just kept pushing because we were just focused, like even like a lot of our tech efforts were towards marketing rather than product. So it's been really great to spend that now on the product itself. And then a lot of our time is spent thinking like, how are we gonna help locals find these unknown places, unlock these untold stories in their own cities, and help people discover playfully? How are we going to do that? So it's really also that change in behavior. We're all talking about it. Like we are talking, like between us talking about changing our travel behavior, a lot of people are. So how can we help people, like give them those experiences in their own cities? So how can we tell that story to them? That's a big part of our day at the moment. And also new partnerships. We were very much focused on travel partnerships, and those are hard. I mean, we're having the conversations, but they're harder, and many of them are postponed or on hold. And then we find out that phone providers that used to make money off roaming don't right now, but they want to offer people something when they do travel again, when they land. So they want to start promoting experiences to their customers when they go somewhere else. We're like, this is genius.
And you've got a digital experience.
Exactly.
It fits right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
it's also,
interesting.
yeah, it's really interesting opportunities that we have discovered during this time that I don't think would have ever come up if we were all in our normal, like super fast, busy, regular days.
I don't want to be a journalist covering this. Like there's a lot coming, I think, and it's really interesting to hear that kind of story. There's one positive, another positive, and then I have to end talking about one of your key investors. A lot of tech companies, especially marketplaces, have had, and people that had advanced bookings spent a lot of time undoing those bookings at the beginning. You didn't have that kind of, I won't call it a classic story because it's nothing normal about it and it's nothing positive about it really either. But you weren't locked in, you know, getting worse before it gets better in terms of pressure on staff and trying to figure out how to do all these refunds and stuff like that. You, like I said, you didn't have to lay off 10,000 or 1,000 tour guides. It's different for you. How did what is the cancellation avalanche work on your side around the same time that everybody else was on their support software trying to figure out how to get people refunded?
Yeah, so for us, because the majority of our bookings have people buy and play within the same day, same 24 hours, sometimes 48. So because it's such a last minute buy these experiences that we offer, we didn't really have that problem. They just stopped buying them. So we don't have to pay them. And the other payback. And the other thing is that people that have already bought with us in the past that know they were going to play in maybe a month when they traveled, does happen too. Our games, once you buy, are valid for 6 months normally, and we've extended that for 12 months. So we've emailed everyone that had a game bought and not played yet. So it was pretty easy for us. A lot of our bookings have come in through Get Your Guide, but those are canceled through Get Your Guide, so it doesn't really involve us. So for us, that's been pretty easy to manage. Just people aren't booking and playing on the same day at the moment.
It would be remiss of me to miss the fact that you've got one of your investors is part KLM. It's Transavia, which is kind of like a you know, an EasyJet, Ryanair kind of airline here in Europe. They're huge. They're one of your investors. Yeah. How did that conversation go? Because I know it's a tough time for them, like any airline at the moment. Was there any backing out or pausing of conversations while this started to unfold?
No, I mean, I will say we were quite lucky that we closed the deal in February, only in February. But and I mean, when we really think about it, shit was already happening. Things were already happening in February, and so we're very grateful that we already closed the deal then. And I mean, it's a shame for us that everything's on hold. Like their planes are stopped. Like all their planes are parked at Amsterdam Airport for the foreseeable future, and we were going to promote so many of our experiences to so many of their flyers, and a lot of that's on hold. We are thinking of other ways because they're also looking at how can they start to engage with their customers again after they've dealt with, as you were saying, all these cancellations and customer support things. So we're now thinking about how can we do games with them that are like our online games, but about their destinations to get people excited again. So we are exploring with them. We're just really excited for people to start flying again eventually, and maybe a little bit less. Maybe that's not a bad thing for the planet, but for people to start flying again and to start our actual partnership with them. So,
what's your thoughts on the role of ancillary revenue, the kind of add-on extra revenue that airlines earn through partnerships? What's your thoughts on ancillary revenue after COVID's crisis starts to melt here? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I mean, feeling is a great question because I don't want to make any predictions. Like I don't have the facts, but feeling, yes, intuitively. I mean, we were already speaking with them. This is an area that they were focusing on as an airline, and several airlines that we were in conversation with said, oh, this is something that we're now starting to do. And fascinating, 2 years ago, we were speaking with airlines and they didn't want to talk to us. And then last October, we spoke to several airlines and they're all like, oh yeah, ancillary services and we're offering these things. Now we're like, great. So I think they might be doing that even more because that will be extra revenue stream for them to be able to survive too when flight volume is still lower.
There's a lot of motivation to earn. There's a lot of motivation to change. It just takes a long time sometimes. And the ancillary message kind of has settled in. So all of the Jay Sorensen reports, all of those are kind of settling in now. We all need to move towards ancillary, you know. So there's a lot of drive there. Hopefully it'll stay. That's why I was curious to get your feeling. So hopefully that'll be part of the recovery for them. And that every ticket that gets sold from Transavia features a Secret City Trail journey as part of it. So let's hope for that. Now the other journey that I'd like to talk about is the one from Karl Llewellyn. So thanks for joining us, Wendy. We'll come back to you at the end of the show again. But Karl, who I've met more than often enough, rarely in Dublin because we tend to meet a lot at travel conferences on the sales floor. But Karl, you're the founder of Sanctifly, and you know there are companies that say aggregate hotels, and there are companies that say aggregate flights and taxis, like ourselves. You aggregate wellness. Can you tell me a little bit about what Sanctifly is, and we'll take it from there, because I think it's fascinating what you've done and why. So give us a little spin on what it is you do.
Hi Kevin, great to talk to you again, and greetings from West Cork. If there was a good place to be locked in, this is certainly one of them. So Sanctifly, as you say, look, we're a members app, and what we do is we're there to kind of guide, encourage and direct and give easy access to good things for you to do at airports. So wellness, fitness, leisure, relaxation. We're about aggregating all those options and making it easy for members to get in there, and in the process improve what are generally bad travel habits to good ones. That's our whole philosophy.
Airports, we like to imagine people getting out of there as quickly as possible. It's not a place that many people enjoy staying. In fact, at a premium, I will get out of there, as quickly as I can, the shortest possible connection, whatever it takes. But you've managed to turn that into a positive experience. So instead of, a layover at, Burger King or something a little bit more fancy, you're proposing to have either at the beginning, end, or the middle of a journey to have something like a spa treatment or something like a gym pass or something along those lines. This is a new type of airport experience. Was there anything like this before you guys? Or are you the first to come along and say, let's do something more than a lounge, guys?
Yeah, well, we're very much the first at it, and it came from my own experience as a business traveler, and having lounge access, it didn't make it different. We still were going through this habit of, eating, sitting, and drinking before we got on a plane to eat, sit, and drink. And it's the weirdest kind of combination of habits. And I went, there has to be a better way. I mean, we all know we should prepare ourselves better for flights, that, flight times is detrimental to our health the more time we're spending on planes. And I just went, well, how do I find out what's good for me to do at an airport? Now, true, our normal journey to an airport, if we've got it down pat, is we're in and out inside 90 minutes. And we don't have a lot to do for you on that 90-minute trip. But if you're in an airport you're less familiar with, your flight's at 9 o'clock at night, you're flying back from the States to the UK or something, then you might say, well, you know what, I'm finishing the city at 6. I'm not going to start drinking here. What can I do at the airport? I need to get there first. And how can I create options? And we were there about making that easier for the business traveler. And this became more and more important for the employer, because that's our target, is the employer taking better care of their traveling staff.
It's something we've touched on a previous episode of the live show here, but when you think of the corporate travel, or at least not, it doesn't have to be corporate travel, but let's say you're traveling for work. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
The employer has something called duty of care. Now, it's a legal term, but it means it's a different type of travel. You need to know that they're safe all the time. That's a different type of product. There's two elements to that, though, Karl. Like on one level, today you've got a beautiful niche where this is a way that instead of just buying the lounge pass or whatever for employees, this is a way that an employer can at least encourage a better lifestyle for people on the road, if not just take better care of them, right?
Well, more than encourage, but you provide the catalyst and the opportunity to do it. So I suppose our whole message was that, as an employer, should you really be offering your staff saying, hey, Johnny, you're traveling a lot on business. Here's access to free bars all over the world. Go over, eat crisps and drink Merlot before you fly. And we said, here, Johnny, you're traveling on business. Here's access to Sanctifly. Go create some good travel habits. And we're about everything from a 10-minute stretch before a 6-hour flight to a shower on arrival, to the gyms, the massages, quiet zones. I mean, most of our product is about finding relaxation and quiet space than jumping on a treadmill. And that has an easier appeal to an employer when they're thinking about, well, how can I make frequent traveler better for my team? I can't bump them all up to business class, but there has to be something I can offer them that's more on brand than free bar access.
For you guys, there's an element. It's kind of a marketplace story. So you're bringing demand from relationships that you're building. You're getting some of those relationships through partners, and then on the other side, you've got the actual service providers. So where the passenger relaxes, where they find the treadmill, where they find the 10 minutes, just to feel a little bit better. Are you finding that it's easier to do business during this time to build those partnerships? Is there more time from your potential partners to take your call, for example?
So there's a range of partners, and some have been suffered cataclysmic damage, and some are still available for business, so opportunities. So in breaking it down, we've 2,500 location partners at 130 airports. And as a whole team, what we're doing is about improving the product like everyone else, because how can we get more and create more options? So one of our secret sauce is giving access to airport hotels, gyms, pools, and pass, so they're leisure facilities. And we're finding it much easier to get through to the GMs of the hotels, quite simply because they are now answering the phone. And I mean that not in jest. They are answering the phone to the hotel. They are frontline.
Wow.
And whilst we're saying, look, let's prepare for when you reopen, and let's prepare by bringing you, our members, new customers into your facility. This is not about a today or tomorrow solution. So we have found that our prospect pool at the hotels has actually gone up 400%. Our pipeline has jumped significantly globally. So we're very happy with that. On the other side of the thing is one of our strongholds was spas, massage parks, locations. And the reality is that marketplace is probably shut down for 12 months in some locations, because the idea of somebody putting their hands on somebody else is just as close as we can get from where we are right now in social distancing. So they have to go through a huge amount of transitioning through this, through what we are right now, to be able to open up again. And there's a lot of licensing and vising and passporting, so that I know I'm safe to give you a massage and you're safe for me to give you a massage.
It was one of the things that Timothy O'Neill Dunn said to us 2 weeks ago. There's going to be some sort of a health story as part of recovery. We have to have something there. You know, the health passport, or the, you know, the instant testing, whatever it is. You know, if it means that we can travel and we can all go outside to play again, you know, sign me up. From your perspective, though, when did it hit, Karl, and what was the reaction? Because I think for everybody the story is slightly different. It was sometime in, maybe for some it was in January, for some it was in March. When did it settle in for you? When was this a problem?
Yeah, so we sell to corporates. So we did a great Q1. I was in San Francisco last week in February, and as I said, it was still a Chinese problem at that stage, and everyone was just working business as usual. I was then in New York first week in March. That's only the following week. And after attending the BTS show in London, the 3 days in between, which we were all getting on with it, shaking hands and fist pumping. And the New York, I got my first cancelled meetings. St. Carlos is just not a reality for us. Certainly when I came back on the 6th of March, you could see this is closed, this is shutting down. So yeah, first week in March, US is our market. So we started seeing it happening then, and thankfully started preparing with what's happening in mind.
When you say that the US is a market, that leaves you, if there is, you know, an early return to domestic travel, that leaves you guys open to start prospering almost immediately, though. That is a positive element of it. Assuming that the product is, you know, COVID safe, like you said. Massage is kind of out of fashion at the moment, but, you know, is there a lot of pressure on your service providers to demonstrate that they are, you know, post-COVID ready, or, you know,
well, not yet, but it's going to be a reality. All signs are telling us that the business traveler in particular is going to come back very different. I think organizations, when they're saying we need you to go back out there again, are going to apply a different level of understanding of the risk of sending Johnny back out on the road. And Johnny himself is going to go, well, is it safe for me to do that? And how am I going to take better care of myself? And, you know, to the example of, you know, when we sat in a plane before and the guy beside us sneezed, we went, well, a little bit irritating. But now it's going to be a complete, how do I take care of myself, get this guy away from me? So how are we all managing ourselves? So I think the words are kind of health, safety, resilience. It's not a word that we talked a lot about when we travel a lot before. You know, and that risk from a company, they're going to become more important. And I suppose what we're trying to do as a product is very much, we're moving away from the fitness aspect of what we're doing, which has always been an inherent part of the product, but saying, right, how can we guide the business passenger to having a healthier journey through the airport, guiding them through safety, giving them more resilience, giving them more space, showing them where we can create more space for them in their journey. And will that have a stronger appeal for our end customer and for their employer in terms of how they will enable them?
Do you find that we kind of have to learn how to fly again? You know, when you fly frequently, I bet if I set you down in front of a globe with a marker, you'd be able to draw all the major airline routes out of Dublin or Cork, wherever, so you could get a sense of, you know, where people fly. Right now, I have no idea who flies where. Do you think like we're going to be back to square one? Everybody, we're all going to be learning to fly again. We're going to be learning, how do I get to X? And that's going to be a big question every time we start a route.
I think we're definitely going to fly differently. I think as business passengers, we are definitely going to have a different set of rules for how we prepare ourselves for flights, how we manage ourselves at the airport, on flights, and post-flight. And what I mean by in all those positions is the what we're eating, the alcohol consumption, the space that we are providing ourselves from others, what we're touching on those particular journeys. And I'm not trying to create a paranoia from it, but there's a healthier way for us to travel that a lot of us have had before. And some of the habits which we've had, I've often joked about it, they're legacies of Don Draper, martinis on takeoff. Some of that is nuts. And I think it needs to, there's a change which could happen as part of this whole thing, which wouldn't be bad for all of us.
Do you find that you're, with that in mind, do you find that you're feeling a little bit of pressure to to even deliver, not find, but deliver on new opportunities around safe travel? Are you looking at that a little bit? Are you repositioning your product to be more about the post-distance world?
Well, two things I'll share there. So we've already had conversations at a national level in the US about what the new sanitary safe standard may look like. Okay. And it's definitely coming. There will be a certificate on every gym window or any just saying we achieved this standard, because customers are going to demand it. I'm going to want to know how often you clean down on the treadmill and not be reliant on whether Johnny cleaned it down after him or not.
Exactly, yeah. So the day of trusting the previous user is kind of gone all of a sudden. There's
without a doubt. The second thing is we've started putting a huge, we always had recommended walks and runs at airports, but we're doubling down on that because I think certain travelers are going to say, well, I'm not comfortable in going to a gym and I'm not going to have a massage, but I have a couple of hours to spare, and what I'd like to do is get out of here. So we're looking at, how can we create a $5 Uber ride, somewhere to leave your luggage, $5 Uber, get you to a nice park, do a walk, do a run, do yoga, but get into space and get back to your airport. And whether you're doing that before your 9 o'clock flight or your early flight or during your layover, then we can see that being important content for us. And right now our goal is to have that at 90 of our international airports by the mid-year mark.
When do you see it ending?
Yeah, so ending's a weird word because
or changing or the turning point.
I think I remember I'm talking business travel here. So business travel, I believe, will start coming back in. I don't think August is going to be the same kind of month as it normally is in a year this year. I would strongly hope that we're all doing business in August because we need a strong 4-month, 5-month finish. So with that in mind, I would say we'll start traveling again in August. I would see that there's a certain bounce in H1 this year, but reality or May next year before I would say we're achieving January levels of travel from 2020. So the preparation needs to be back to that size of market. But Kevin, if I can finish on that, I'm a startup. We're all startups. I don't need the market to be at 100% to succeed.
You just need the gaps.
I just need the gaps. Yeah, I just need to have maybe a little bit more percentage of the big pool. I need a stronger focus on those who are coming back. I need to be part of the reboot. That's my big thing. I need to be part of the reboot. I need to not miss the wave of when the town hall meeting is had in a corporate and they say, we're all going back on the road, guys, but it's going to be different. I need to be part of that meeting. I don't want to miss that opportunity.
So you're okay being a little slice the long tail because that's still huge, and that might be the thing that grows into the front of the tail in the future. Yeah. Karl, before I jump on to the chat with Kei Shibata here, where can we find out about Sanctifly?
Download the app.
Find it on the App Store, Sanctifly. So thanks, Karl, for joining us. We've got one comment to bring in at the end with Kei, I think, but I do want to bring Kei Shibata in. Now, during this call, we've got a whole load of time zones going on here. I think we've got the Middle East and West. The sun has come up in Los Angeles. We've got the side lighting on Rama at this stage. Behind UK, it's very much nighttime in Tokyo.
Yeah, it's almost 11 p.m. So it's about the bedtime, but I'm staying awake. So
that's not too bad. Kei, for people that don't know you, just to give you give a quick sense of who you are, you're part of Venture Republic, who has funded a whole range of different travel or travel-related companies in either Singapore or Japan. We'd have heard of course, Be My Guest, if you know anything about the Asian travel market, Line, and you're involved with Line in some way, and I want you to talk about that in a little bit, but you're very much part of the travel business from an investor's perspective in Singapore and in Japan as well. Can we start maybe about Line? I'm fascinated by this because this is the WhatsApp of Japan.
Right.
How are you involved there?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so I can actually talk about the Line and the super apps, what's it called, super apps, maybe for another half an hour if you want. So, but I'm not gonna get that. So it's a fascinating. So this is actually I think Ian, you should actually probably set up some webinar, whatever, to talk exclusively about the super apps, WeChat, Line, WhatsApp in the future maybe. KakaoTalk, all those things. So but anyway, so the Line is our strategic investor. So right now, so we are running the travel meta search and then also the online travel, the media, both web, traditionally on the web, and then also now on the Line app platform. So, but the Line is a messaging app. So people probably wonder, especially in Europe or US, why the messaging app is doing travel, right? But it's a funny, we are able to sell the travel using Line app. For example, we send the push notification every day to our 21 million friends or followers, whatever you want to call.
It's the heart of communication for most of the country. I think it's a fair statement to say. But from our perspective, it's hard for us to, even in the travel business, to figure out, oh my God, Google owns the top of the funnel. In your part of the world, the super app owns the funnel, really. There's quite a lot of travel that starts within the app environment, right? So whether it's WeChat or Line, there are different hero apps in different markets, but in Japan, it's very much Line. You're not too far from an announcement that was made recently, and Ian was dying to know what's happening with the Olympics.
Well,
were you involved in any projects there, just out of curiosity, or is it more only as a spectator?
Not so much. Not so deep into the Olympics things, but it's been quite funny, I would say. The whole thing's happened to the Olympics. Apparently, the government actually was really desperately wanted to actually run the Olympics this year, but they ended up just giving up. And then after that, I think it's Japan actually started seeing the more numbers of the cases on the COVID-19, and then now we are kind of semi-lockdown. So things actually come kind of a turn around. When the Olympics was actually rescheduled. So, and then also the impact on the travel is also very interesting because, we've seen so many hotels, so many more flights actually are over the course of the last probably couple of years or so. And then at the one point last year, we already started seeing the overcapacity of hotels, like places in the Kyoto or Osaka.
Wow.
And then so I was actually going to tell that not just Japan, maybe all over the world, I think this overcapacity problem is going to be huge in the industry. I mean, not just the post-Olympics in Japan, but also, everywhere in the world. I think it's, the travel has been growing, right? Everywhere. In APAC, for example, like a low-cost airlines and everything, Air Asia. So there are so many people traveling across the regions. And then, now all the capacity is actually just going to be just too much.
So the ASEAN market, Asia, was a darling for the investors and analysts for a long time now. This is the growth area for flights. This is where all the leased stuff is going. This is where all the new deliveries are going, maybe to India as well, but a whole load of stuff is going east.
Yep.
How long will it be before we're back to, say, 2019 levels across Asia? in your view? Go as far south as Indonesia, go as far north as you guys. How long will it be before we're back to normal?
It's fair to say that. I think it's, I mean, I started kind of imagining the level of the recovery in Q4 this year. It will be somewhere like 30% down from the previous year, I think.
Okay.
So that's how I see it. And then maybe so if I actually answer your questions, maybe sometime summer next year, so we have a possibility to be back in a normal to the normal situation. But my point being is actually, so because this overcapacity situation, I think it's going to be a massive industry consolidation coming up now. So,
I can see a lot of potential partnerships or a lot of current partnerships that would do better maybe as one airline in the region.
A lot of M&As, come in. I think it's and this is actually, it's going to be relevant for the startups too.
Okay. You were saying that, from your own role, on a day-to-day basis, you're spending maybe 90% of your time on kind of managing crisis for your portfolio, for your active company relationships. You were saying deal flow is lower. Is there, at the same time, that doesn't mean to say that the entrepreneurial spirit isn't there as much. Is it just that it's a bad time to start a business right now?
No, I think it's a great time to start, first of all, but it's a bad time to raise the money.
Okay. Once there's a sense of where things will develop, I think money will be a little bit more confident.
Well, when the investors started feeling a little bit more comfortable by probably seeing some kind of recovery, I think that will be the time, right? So you really want to kind of wait and see when that thing's coming. But for the time being, what's important is actually to really try to stay connected with all those, the potential investors or potential acquirers, someone. The other day I was actually, I had a kind of fun experience. You guys all know that, Greg Fogel of Booking Holdings, the CEO of Booking Holdings, and he's got infected.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So he actually
he's not a young guy. I hope he's okay though. Wow.
Yeah, he's okay. So he's okay. So he had his own video actually published, and then I saw that on LinkedIn, and then I emailed him because I know him for a long time. So and then within 10 seconds I got an email from him, right? And back and forth for like 15 minutes or so, which doesn't happen a lot in a normal times. Wow. So my point being is actually, so even like a Grant, he has some extra time, right?
That's interesting, because that means more decisions can be made or more ideas can be shared. We asked our aviation panel 2 weeks ago about what are the new guys coming. I said at the start of the show, Airbnb needs $2 billion to keep going. Airbnb came from the Great Recession. Booking came somewhere in between. We had Expedia did their big hotel drive after 9/11. What do you think the next wave is, or what are the new gaps in travel that people should be looking at for when it's the right time to raise?
Well, first of all, I think this is actually too obvious, but everything's going to be online, right? So the importance of digital and online distribution is actually going to be even bigger. Because think about maybe your uncle or your even your grandma. Now they're doing everything online.
They finally figured out Skype. That's
exactly
20 years on. They finally figured it out.
So to me, I think it's if any business who are failing to adapt the online the way of businesses, actually they're going to die, right? And the anyone who can actually support maybe the gold digger, right? So the so I mean, I think it's the someone talk about the standardization of a sanitization or something, right? You know, that's one example, right? So maybe you can imagine that as a team actually said, you're gonna have to fly to the different country, not just with a passport, but also you have some special app. Maybe that app actually shows everyone that hey, I have this vaccination and that vaccinations or whatever, right? And then who's going to develop that kind of app, right? So any technology enabler to fill the gap by leveraging technology is probably going to actually make a lot of money.
Of course, Apple and Google announced this week that they're going to allow one creepy. I'm going to say creepy because my inner Edward Snowden is screaming when I hear about it. But they're going to allow one monitoring app per market to emerge to do the kind of thing that we've seen in South Korea, for example. So you can say you can get an alert you've been where somebody who had an infection was get tested.
Do you guys know that in Singapore where I'm half based, I think there's the app called the Tracer, whatever. Okay. So they basically the government actually recommended all the people to download that app, and then you need to actually have that app up and running 24/7 to track your activities. And so this is another example, I think.
It'll be interesting to see what the outcome for that is. There is such a liberty that comes from mobility, that comes from just being able to fly to Singapore through wherever, for me, Qatar, and arrive safely and feel like I'm arriving safely. There's a lot to say for being able to do that, but at the same time, the big brother side of it, that's going to be an interesting trade-off for folks, especially after a couple of months. But let's hope that we're all back in the air soon. Kei, before we stop, I wanted to ask you, and I warned you in advance, so people know that you've had a chance to reflect on this a little bit. I asked you to think about what one piece of advice you might offer, either generally to all three of our startups today or one at a time. What advice would you give each of the founders on today's call?
Well, apparently the most important thing is actually to survive, right? So I can't emphasize more about the importance of surviving. You need to be super creative for surviving. And then there are many government programs for loans and subsidies and whatever it is, and you definitely want to leverage as much as possible. So the number one thing is definitely survive. I think it's, when I was actually studying at the business school back in the days, when I took the entrepreneurship course, I was actually told by the professor that the sales, right? The most important is sales. Second most important thing is sales. But now it's actually survive. So, but that being said, I think it's, going back to my earlier point, I think that, massive industry consolidations are coming. So you want to be prepared for that, I think. And the one of the things that all the entrepreneurs actually have to do is to find taking this opportunity to find a new contact who can potentially be your acquirer or strategic partners or investors, whatever you want to call. It's a perfect time to do that. And it is definitely going to help you over the time too.
It's a nice way to spend the time as a CEO.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a certainty. I'm looking forward to seeing the new travel landscape. I'm looking forward to seeing all the new product. It is, in spite of the fact that at the moment it is heartbreaking. Some days it is, you feel lost on other days. It's still an exciting time. For what
absolutely.
comes next,
like I said, it's a perfect time to actually start a new business. I think there are lots of opportunities for sure. Right. I mean, I personally think that, the things like staycations or workations or biz leisure, they're all going to be potentially very, going to be more mainstream maybe, right? Because people are so used to working from some remote locations now, right?
Yep.
So a lot of people probably have a mindset that, oh, I can work from some island, right? So,
if you're on Zoom, and you're on Zoom all the time anyway, and for whatever reason, and I hope we do a certain amount on Zoom and a whole lot off it. There's things I'm looking forward to never having to do on Zoom again. This is okay, but I'm looking forward to that being that allowing a portability of our lifestyle. As the only thing that stops me from coding outside is the fact that my screen washes out in sunshine. But there's no reason to suggest we couldn't have a meeting from the beach halfway around the world, Kei. And maybe that's something worth looking forward to. I know it'll fit and support Karl's business model at least. Folks, I want to just wrap up at this stage. Kei, I would literally chat to you for another hour, but I've come to the end of my 15 minutes with you, and we're already a little bit over time. I want to thank our 4 speakers today: Kei Shibata from all kinds of many startups, Wendy van Leeuwen from Search City Trails, Rama Poola from SkyHi, not Fly High, SkyHi, and Karl Llewellyn from Sanctifly. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with a colleague. If you have any suggestions to make or any feedback, hit us up live at travelmassive.com. Before I sign off, this is episode 7 called Restart. Before I sign off, I just want to say farewell and good luck to our friends who, and this, I wasn't looking forward to saying this, the guys in Voyager HQ in New York, a couple of entrepreneurs that got together, did something crazy. They built an incubator, an open space for just travel in the US. They closed their doors, I think it was yesterday, for the last time. So John, Jenny, and team, all our best wishes from the team at Travel Massive. It knocked the stuffing out of me. I was sad to see it, and just an indicator that things are not going back to usual. When we're out of this, sometimes we'll lose at least the brands from Friends, but John and Jenny, we're looking forward to seeing whatever you guys do next. For everybody else that's in the same situation, our heart goes out to you, of course. We put these shows together in order to come together to talk about the COVID-19 crisis. And like I said, if you have anything that you want to share with us, we do get an awful lot of stuff privately from people. We get some great suggestions for shows. Live at travelmassive.com comes to the production team here. This was produced by Maria Stoyanova in Bulgaria with the help from Ian, the Travel Massive founder, currently in Tasmania still. And I'm Kevin O'Shaughnessy here in Dublin. From all of us on Travel Massive Live, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Thanks a million.